My name is Cassy Summers. Welcome to the Curious Universe podcast. Hello, welcome to the Curious Universe, my wonderful friend. Today, I want to explore with you the gift of bringing up shit. Now, I used to be the kind of person that would just avoid, well, anything uncomfortable, essentially. I would avoid bringing up like my own stuff. And what I mean by that is if I knew, say, having a conversation with someone who was going to bring up emotions for me, bring up the past for me, bring up triggers for me, I would avoid it at all costs. I'd be like, no, this is something I'm not doing. I would sometimes even tell people like this is a trigger for me, so that in hopes that they would avoid it. So to make sure I'm not triggered, so that my stuff doesn't come up, right? We all have this stuff. What do you have as stuff? Like these locked in emotions, these reactions, these energies. And we're doing everything we can to avoid them coming up. We want to package it into a little container and then store it somewhere deep and dark and like in like a crawl space in the basement. This is what my head's picturing right now. To make sure like it doesn't affect us. To make sure it doesn't do whatever we've decided that bringing it up is going to do. I've actually had people I have had conversations with, and they know the work that I do. I do one-on-one sessions. I sometimes do something called the access bars. So it's like a head technique. And they've said to me, well, am I going to have to talk about, some of the stuff going on in my life? Am I going to have to talk about the trauma? Now, one, I always say not necessarily. We don't need to like go in and specifically talk about that specific thing if you really don't want to talk about it, because the beauty of energetic work is that things can change as if by magic without you even necessarily discussing it. But what I want to point out is if it starts to come up and we avoid it, and I allow my clients to run the show. So if they don't want to talk about it, we don't talk about it. It's their session. I'm not going to force them to talk about something they don't want to talk about. But if you're willing to have your shit come up, then you would also be willing to have it cleared out. And if you're willing to have it cleared out, what is that space of possibility like? If you took all of the containers out of your deep, dark basement and you actually open up the containers and just threw that shit out, what would your life be like? What would your body feel like? And what could you actually create forward for your future without all that shit packed down there? So there is a dynamic gift in being willing to have all your shit come up. And it's so funny to me. I don't know why. But partly because it's the opposite of what we would think. It's where we're like, no, we just want to like create this like perfect little ideal where everything is happy, but in the background, nothing's happy. It's like that, the 1950s housewife where she's just like doing the perfect mom thing where secretly she wants to kill herself or kill her husband or run away or, I don't know, join the army. Like, whoo, how much have you done to pretend that everything's fine when really you're just burying all the stuff that's not fine? Where did you decide that that was going to keep you safe, or that was what was keeping you free? But are you actually free? Are you actually free if you're having to avoid what's really going on? Are you actually free if you're having to compress and hide all of this stuff from you? It's like, when I don't know if you did this as a kid, I did this as a kid, is that if I was like sneaking upstairs at night and sometimes my parents would be watching TV and I'm like, if I couldn't see them, somewhere in my head, they could not see me. So I like wouldn't look at them, or sometimes I would do this and I'm like, they totally can't see me because I can't see them. Okay, I was like 4. Give me a break. But where are you doing that? Like, if I can't see the stuff that's bugging me, then it can't affect me. But it is affecting you because it's there. It's there in your universe. It's might be in a container. You may have contained it, but it's still there. And anything that might trigger that container opening is a threat. And that could be people. That could be activities. That could be all sorts of things. I know that when I first started to, so after, I was I was with someone for 11 years. We were married for 5, and it was extremely abusive the entire time. And like, I'm not saying that it didn't seem like it wasn't abusive, but overall, it was abusive. Okay. And so then years later, I finally got to a place where I was willing to like let in a few people in that romantic sense. But what would happen is, oh man, it triggered everything that I had not yet. And I thought I had dealt with a lot, and I dealt with enough to get me to the place that I was willing to even entertain the idea of like having feelings for someone again, having not exactly feelings, but like intimacy is actually the word I'm looking for rather than feelings. So to have intimacy with someone again in that way would always trigger all these packages that were in my basement that I didn't want to look at. And I'm so grateful because I've actually had some incredible men in my life that have been really patient with me and really allowed me to like open up my package and just like dump it all over the kitchen table and been like, yeah, so I mean, you triggered this opening. I'm going to dump on the table. And I use the tools of access consciousness to clear it. And I'm so grateful for those tools because I know that there's a lot of talk therapy. There's a lot of different modalities. There's a lot of different things out there. And I think part of the fear is that we open up the package, we dump it on the table. And then it's like everyone just has to sit there with all this shit on the table. But with the tools, and one of them I share every single show I do, every single podcast, is the access consciousness clearing statement. That alone can clear off that table for you. There's a lot of other tools and techniques and processes that are available if you ever wanted to have a one-on-one session or join a class of some sort. But I use these tools, I use this clearing statement to clear off that table. And sometimes a few things like end up sneakily going into another package in my basement that I haven't yet gone through. But this one package is now gone, and I'm lighter and I'm freer because I was willing to engage with someone that triggered the package opening. And now it's not only as someone, and for me, it's kind people trigger. Really kind people, really kind, sexy, beautiful men trigger the shit out of my packages. And I love it. And I'm so grateful for everyone that has come along and been willing to let me dump my stuff on the table and let me clear it. It can also be activities. It can also be events. It could be anniversaries. It can be so many different things for us. Most of us, I was gonna say all of us, most of us have experienced some sort of abuse, some sort of trauma sometime in our life, right? It can be maybe you were in a really bad car accident once and now you're terrified of going into a car. Maybe it's for you, instead of like a romantic thing, it's like, oh, you were shamed or laughed at or bullied in high school. So any sort of like public speaking type of thing would just horrify you. It would trigger everything. I want to just put a disclaimer here for a second. I'm not saying that I'm recommending you to go out and trigger the heck out of yourself and just unconsciously do things that are abusive to yourself or put yourself into horrible, uncomfortable situations. What I am saying is, are you willing to allow those packages to come up in the way that they come up so that you can use these tools that I've gifted within this podcast, that maybe other tools that you have or other access conscious tools that you've learned from other facilitators to actually clear it out, to let it go. I've had moments of even like receiving gifts from people that has brought up my shit. And it would come up in a way where I was like, what does this mean? Am I going to owe them? Like all this, like all this stuff coming up, right? And the gift itself was made out of total generosity of spirit, total kindness, no expectation, but my stuff was coming up. And I had to fight myself not to reject it because that's all I wanted to do. Because if I knew, if I just rejected it, if I make this go away, then my package is safe. I can just push the lid on a little bit harder. It got popped up a little bit. I'm just going to push it on and I can shove it back in the thing. Instead, what I chose to do was to get really vulnerable and open up that package. Why is this coming up? What is this? So my stuff's coming up. What is this? And again, it's like often we want to blame other people for triggering us. We want to be like, how dare you have given me that gift? All my shit's up now. But I've learned to become very grateful for when people bring up my shit, because I know that this is part of my dance with the universe, freeing me from all that holds me back, all that limits me, all the lies that I have, all of the useless shit in my basement. And as I ask for more and more consciousness, and I ask every day for a greater and greater life and living, the universe will deliver that in multiple ways. And some of the ways is assisting me in clearing out those packages. What do? Do you blame other people for triggering you? Do you blame other people for bringing up your stuff? Do you blame other people for making you uncomfortable? If you do, I'm not making you wrong. I've done it. But you can just kind of get clear on, okay, is this person being abusive? Or is this my stuff coming up that I'm blaming on them? And that is a bit of a game changer, my friend. Because when you can go, oh, this is my stuff, rather than blaming someone else, now you can handle it. When you blame someone else, you're not handling anything. You're just trying to shove everything back into its little box. And the thing is, like that, what you've shoved in these boxes doesn't even really fit. It's like, like a box like about to explode. And so someone touches it and you're like, oh my God, you touched my box, because you know it's going to explode. You know it. But what if you have the tools and the capacity to handle it all? And what if you're willing to just open it up? Clear out whatever you're ready to clear out. And you can, if you're not ready to empty up the whole box, just clear it a little bit, close it up, put it away for later. So I want to go into a little bit. If you're new to this show, you might be like, what do you mean clear it out? What do you mean access conscious clearing statement? And so let me just share with you, there is a magical tool called the Access Conscious Clearing Statement. If you want to go to theclearingstatement.com, there's I believe it's 20-minute video with Dr. Dane here, and I think Simone Milasas is in it now as well, describing the clearing statement and how it works. But essentially it is a set of words that we use that when you bring up these energies, and that's what it really is. We might call it feelings, we might call it emotions, we might call it whatever, but it is energy. That is what is coming up. It is energy. And the clearing statement clears out energy. So here is a quick version of it that you could use. So everything that this brings up and lets down, will you destroy and uncreate it? You don't have to know how. You don't need to know why. You just need to go, yeah, I'll destroy and uncreate that. And then I say the clearing statement, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 9 shorts, boys, but that and beyond. And when I first heard this and someone said, this is going to clear stuff, and I never did energy work and stuff before. Okay. So I wasn't like, I'd done all these modalities and I came to Access. I was like very much of this reality and very much avoiding any kind of energetic stuff because I had a lot of resistance to it. So when someone told me that, I didn't believe them. But after they repeated it, I started to just have a sense of being lighter. And I'm like, weird. Why am I getting lighter? Because in my mind at the time, saying this phrase should not change anything. Why would it? I didn't even understand it. How can this do anything? But it did. And then I started to use it, and I started to use it, and I started to use it. And it was like this miraculous thing that was clearing out energies. And I still didn't understand how. I didn't understand why, but I was willing to have it. I was willing to have it change. So are you? If so, what box could you crack open right now? Just let a little bit out of that energy out and then destroy it and create it and let it go. Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, POD, all 9 shorts, boys, bats, and beyonds. What boxes have I already cracked open just through this conversation? And all the energy that's up, all of your shit that's come up, will you destroy it and create it? Please, right, wrong, good, bad, POC, POD, all 9 shorts, boys, bats, and beyonds. So what if you're willing to start seeing the gift in when people bring up your shit? What if you're willing to see the gift in it? Now, for me, I was explaining like really kind men would bring up my shit. Well, it's not always going to be pretty like that. It can be someone being unkind might bring up your shit because it reminds you of this or reminds you of that, or the way someone looks at you or whatever it is. It might be a phrase, just something that someone says that reminds you of this abusive situation you're in. You still use that clearing statement. You still clear out those energies. You still free yourself of it. And then you can have gratitude for the person in bringing up the energies that they brought up, but still acknowledge that they were being mean, that they weren't doing out of kindness. But we can still be grateful for the gift of freedom that it is, because the universe is using everyone to contribute to you. That annoying person in line that is taking way too long. That person that honks at you and they're flipping you off because you don't even know why. That happens to me all the time. I'm like, really, like, driving, using all of the laws of driving, and you're really mad at me right now. But it brings up an energy, right? And it used to just alarm me. Like, I used to like freak out because anytime I thought I did something wrong would be very triggering. And then when I would clear that energy, especially in the moment of that trigger, I started to realize that it's just someone's interesting point of view, and that it was okay if they were mad. It didn't mean anything about me. I'd have to take it on, and I could just clear it out. Do you see how your triggers will start to disappear? The emotions, the feelings that you have attached to these packages will also start to disappear. Now, some of you might be concerned about that. It might be like, well, maybe someone you really cared for passed away, their body died. And what you're afraid of is actually letting go of that grief, letting go of the feelings and emotions around it is like letting go of them, and is maybe dishonoring to them. But what if it's not? What if would be more honoring to them would be to have available the memories of all the joy with them, to have available the energy of them in your life. But if you've taken all that grief and those feelings and all those triggers and you put it into a package and then you put it into the basement, well, you've actually separated more from them than if you're willing to let all that grief go. This is maybe like a really big topic, this grief topic, to be continued on another podcast, perhaps. But we have all sorts of reasons of why we hold on to things. Sometimes we hold on to things to punish people or to victimize others. Sometimes we hold on to things to make ourselves small, to hide, to hurt ourselves, to punish ourselves. What if we were willing to be free? What if you were willing to be free? What if you're willing to be triggerless? What if you're willing to have people bring up your shit and know that this is an exciting moment for you? This is a moment where you're about to get free of whatever they just brought up. That's what I endeavor to acknowledge every time. And sometimes in the moment, I have a moment. I have moments where I'm mad or I'm frustrated or I'm sad or there's something coming up for me. And by no means, I am not perfect in any way. But very quickly and more I use this, the quicker I am, I stop and I go, wait a minute. This is a gift. There is a gift here. I am so grateful that you were just an asshole to me, because I can clear this piece that is limiting me. I can clear this piece here that is holding me back. And that I might still never choose to speak to this abusive person again, but I'm still grateful for the moment of freedom that was delivered. That possibility. Now, it is a possibility. I don't have to choose it. There could be a possibility for me to get free, and I can choose to hold on tighter to that trigger than ever before, or that limitation than ever before. That is a choice I could make. Or I could choose to use it to my advantage and get myself more free every day. Thank you so much for exploring this with me. I hope you got a little bit more free today. And please feel free to use this clearing statement without having to understand it. Use it all the time. You can't use it in a wrong way. Just use it. And if you want more information, please go to theclearingstatement.com. But what if there's a gift beyond what we can even understand when our shit comes up. And if you're willing to acknowledge that as a gift and use the tools to clear it out, you're just going to be unstoppable. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Thank you for exploring the curious universe with me. Your curiosity matters. And what if together we could create a greater, more curious world?